Alright, so once you've chosen a particular branch, here's how you loop back to it for the sake of being able to expand on it and kind of get a sense of, okay, in my outline, in my narrative, what are the major pieces that I need to include in order to tell this story thoroughly and in an engaging way. So I'm choosing on my failure one to go with this one where we had this thing called Mr. Shamanut. It was like this senior thing at the end of the year where you could do a talent and some things that show how you represent the school. And I was like, it's my chance to be seen for this rapper, because people didn't really know back then that I can lay down some bars. So here I've got that one about how the audio is terrible. Like, the big failure is that ultimately, like, nobody really heard it because the beat was way too loud, my mic sucked, and I put all this effort in and no one heard it. So I'm just trying to piece down underneath it some of the things that I remember, like the major pieces. So I remember putting so much preparation into memorizing it. I customized this beat that I found. I was excited for my debut, and I'm kind of just going over, like, okay, so how do I tell this story? Where do I need to start? What kind of details am I adding in? And a lot of this, like, I'm not trying very hard to be like, okay, so how do I tell this story the best? I'm really just telling how I remember it because this failure mattered to me. So those are some of the pieces I include. I've got how I prepared a lot. I was really excited. And then there was this piece where I thought about preparing visual because, like, I knew there were places where I went fast. I was trying to cover some, like, dense topics because I was like, I'm going to be that intellectual rapper, really blow these people away. And I knew it would be hard to follow if I just rapped it straight. So I considered preparing this, like, timed PowerPoint where as I was rapping the lyrics they would show up so people could have that visual. But I decided not to. And that's a piece of where I saw, like, where I see that this failure ultimately came from. There was a lot of preparation, but also some key places where I chose not to prepare completely. And I remember I didn't check the audio very closely, um, and that was kind of sloppy. And then going into what I actually remember seeing as I was doing it in my senior year, I remember looking in the stands and all of these blank faces, and these kids were looking confused, like, what's he saying? I don't know. And I was like, dude, do I really suck that much? Dang, like, I really thought this was good. And I didn't find out until later that they couldn't hear me at all. And so I'm just kind of looking into, like, how did this failure happen? And whatever you're doing, you're gonna be thinking about, like, okay, so this problem that I really want to solve, why do I want to solve it, or how have I tried to solve it, or why is this piece of my identity so important to me? Why did I feel compelled to challenge the belief? And why did I challenge it in that way? And if you already have done a personal statement, this is a really good way to reflect on how to revise it. And ultimately, I do expect to see an outline and a personal statement from everybody. And if you already have one, I'm going to ask you guys, like, okay, so how did you use these days while I was away to improve upon your craft and your narrative? And then lastly, I look at, like, the big lesson that I learned, um, which is that, if I do 90% of the effort, meaning, like, I made the rap, I found the beat, I prepared it, I synced it up, I would practice it 2, 3, 4 times a day, didn't matter because I didn't prepare in all of the ways that really mattered. So doing 90% of the work was really not much different than doing none of the work at all. And so that failure became a big lesson about doing all of the pieces right. And if I'm really diligent about 9 out of 10 tasks, laziness on that 1 out of 10 tasks could be enough to undermine all of the other effort. And that all of this is going to help me when I come to the outline. So see what you guys can get as far as the major experiences, what you recall, what it might have looked like, what led up to the experience, what the experience was like, and then what you learned from it too.